How y'all doing today? If you already subscribed to the channel, welcome back, and I appreciate you for always tuning into my videos. If you're not and you're new to the channel, welcome. I go by the name of Belry. On my channel, you'll see a wide variety of things from music to film. I have a background in both. But let's talk about what we're gonna talk about today, which is something that's new to my channel and new for me, period. And that's sports videography. So recently an opportunity arose in my life and I got referred by a production company that I partnered with in the past. We have done work together for Capital One and Google, and he passed the project on to me, and it involves sports, football to be exact. And you know, of course, when it comes to taking on projects and stuff, I'm always up for the challenge. And I actually want to make a video where I'm talking about niche filmmaking. And in this time and day and age, you have to stay in one direct field of when it comes to filmmaking, or can you have the confidence and talent and skill as well to take on a wide different variety of projects and different fields and still deliver to that client as if a person who exclusively works on that field does it, and still, you know, the client still be satisfied. So myself, I like to take on different kinds of projects and stuff, you know, just because like I like testing myself. I like the communication is there. You tell me what you want and need, I'm gonna do my best like I would do for any other project with the proper pre-production and the proper, you know, talking and communication. I'm gonna bring my best to that project like I would for any other project. So I do want to have a specific YouTube video designated just to talking about that. How do you guys feel about, feel like you have to stay in one way inside of filmmaking? Because me personally, in my career of filmmaking, I have done brand commercials, I have done corporate, I have done music videos, and now I've done sports videography. So let's talk about that. I want to straight off a topic. This is my first time ever filming anything sports wise. And for it to be football, I gotta say, I'm pretty happy that it was football rather than any other sport. One, I have a background in football and basketball, but I don't know, football, I just feel like it's more of a cool thing to film. I'm pretty sure basketball will be fun as well. The first thing that came to mind when I knew I was gonna take on the project was, okay, I went straight to YouTube and I looked up how other sports videographers tackle and prepare for shooting sports videography. And I gotta say, it was kinda nothing that I wouldn't probably, you know, assume. Just picking the right places to be on the field at what times. And at the end of the day, when you're doing this with one camera, you're never gonna capture every angle that, you know, like the NFL, and they got, you know, people on every inch of the sideline recording different lens angles and stuff like that. So I was like, I knew, look, Bell, don't put more pressure on yourself than what you already had. Just take your time with this, tackle it down, you'll get the shots that you need. And it's funny to bring that up because I feel like I got the best position that you can possibly want to record for a football team, and that's quarterback. It's really like the easiest thing you could film. They're gonna be in the same pocket every time, and you know, they're either gonna run it themselves, and by then, you know, you're already locked on, you can follow them appropriately, or they're gonna pass it. Any struggles that I've had with that was probably just, you know, if the quarterback throws it and, you know, say they lob it into the air, just trying to get the camera to make sure we're following that ball all the way to the receiver gets it. Other than that, everything has seemed pretty natural and flowed pretty good for me. Like, once again, the quarterback, probably the best, easiest position you could film. They're always gonna be in the same position every time. So my lens selection for this was the 70 to 200 millimeter. Luckily, you know, this is why you always form good relationships in this field, because you have other people who will loan equipment to you. And I did get loaned 150 mil to 600 millimeter, but I found myself not really using it because it wasn't a constant aperture. So it was between like 5.6 to 6.5. And everybody knows when you zoom in and if it's getting dark on you, you don't really like that, because, you know, now I have to worry about other controls I have to focus on when that. So if I'm zooming in, I might have to bump the ISO some more. You know, I already got the team and people are scattered and all of that. So I just didn't really want to worry about that. Having a constant aperture is definitely better than having a variable one. So moving on from the lens, when I first started filming this project, I was flipping from 24 frames per second to 120 frames per second. I feel like most people would probably film football games in 60 frames per second. And it's funny, I found myself doing that towards like the second to third game in, just to calm down with that motion blur. You know, with football, you have people running very fast and You're also moving the tripod to, you know, stay tracked on your subject, and you can get some motion blur that you might not want in a highlight reel. Granted, it looks awesome. You know, I'm about to give this kid a nice movie. It looks like a movie. Like, I'm gonna give him a movie highlight reel tape. You know, most kids don't have that, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna be satisfied and the film's gonna be satisfied. I'm still satisfied. But I definitely found myself switching from 24 frames per second to 60 frames per second. And anything up from there, it's probably from just 60 or 120 frames per second. So, you know, with sports videography, you want to be able to slow it down midway if he's doing something cool, or he's passing the ball in a nice fashion, or he's running, he dodges a tackle or anything like that. You want to be able to slow it down and then pull it back to regular playback speed, because you're just going to get a nice, cool effect with that. And I have done that a couple times, as I'm going to show to you guys. Just to give you a little bit more insight on this project, the parents who hired me to film their kid, they wanted to keep it under wraps. It's his senior year of high school, and they wanted to make sure he performed as well as he possibly could without knowing he's being filmed and stuff like that. And, you know, at first I was like, oh, how am I gonna, you know, do my job? But that's why I went with a 70 to 200, so I can be pretty far away. But at the end of the day, the kid has been doing great so far, and I'm pretty sure he sees me there. He might not know I'm there exclusively for him, but he sees me there. And also, to go back to when I first got this gig, you know, I was worried about where would I get my best position at to film this kid. And it's so funny, man. When you go towards things just start working out for you in your favor. So I filmed the first scrimmage for them just to get a test and feel for it. The scrimmage went well, right? Game day comes up, and I knew it was gonna be more packed in the stands on game day than it was on that scrimmage. So I was able to be in the stands on that day in the scrimmage, but I knew I probably have a problem with this and just being in people's way, or just the flexibility to be able to move up and down the stands without forgetting something, or, you know, my camera bag is back there. So one day, game day of game one, I'm walking, I show about 30 minutes earlier, and I'm walking through the stands, and I see somebody with a staff shirt on. And I say, hey, excuse me, do you know anybody that works for the, you know, the home team's administration that I can talk to? He's like, yeah, what do you need? And so I'm telling him my story. I'm like, hey, I'm here for one of the players. I got hired by a parent. I wanted to know if I can get access to be on the field. And he's like, yeah, go ahead. So at the time, you know, I don't know who this guy was to give me approval to be on the field. I end up getting on the field, and the actual athletic director comes up and talks to me, and she's like, hey, you know, she asked me what am I here for and who am I here for? And I told her, yeah, there was this guy over there that he just gave me approval to be on the field. And she's like, oh, that's the head coach. So I'm like, you know, it was just funny, and all that worked out perfectly. I got access for the whole season to be on the field. They emailed me a waiver form. I signed that. I brought that to game 2. And now I got access to be on the field, and I even got me a little, what is it? What do they call it? Lantern, whatever. But yeah, you know, I wear this every time I show up to the game, and I got access to the field. So it's just funny, man. Just, you know, open your mouth, talk, and things will work out. I'm talking to this guy the whole time. He's the head coach. I get approval on the field. Then I talk to the athletic director, and you just know it just goes on from there. It could, who knows? I could turn into landing a deal with this school to film their football games after this. That is the plan. But like I said, man, just open your mouth, you know, be polite to people, and you just never know how it's gonna work in your favor. And now I'm on the field all the time. So before I wrap this video up, I just want to cover 2 more small things, one being battery life. So for those who don't know, I own the Canon C70. I still own my GH5, which is crazy. I felt like I probably could have used this for this shoot, but I didn't, you know, just because you have better, you always want to use better. That's just how I feel. So I just want to cover the battery life in a situation like this. My first game, I took 2 of my BPA 30 batteries, and I noticed that I didn't even really need to do that because they perform excellent. My BPA 30, I probably left there with about 75 to 60% battery life still left after a full game. So with that being said, let's just take a couple little factors into account, because it might determine whether, you know, what I'm saying is actually credible for a full football game, or is it just for my situation? So let's remember, I got hired by a parent to film their son who was on offense. So when defense came on the field, I didn't really film too much. I probably just turned the camera off until he got back on the field. So little small things like that, I could say would play a big part in truly knowing if I got hired to film this team exclusively and I would have to film defense and offense throughout the entirety of the game, would the battery life have been different? I'm pretty sure. With that being said, I still feel like I could have got through one whole game with one battery. Even if I did have the whole team to film, I wouldn't have my camera on throughout the whole entire game, catching every little thing, you know? No, I'd get some of the offensive highlight plays, I'd get some of the defensive highlight plays, special teams, and then I'd turn it off, and I'd kind of do that throughout the game. You know, catch a little B-roll here, I'd turn it off. You know when you have enough as a videographer or cinematographer, whatever you guys want to call yourselves, but you know when you have enough, and you know when you have what you need to get the job done. So I still feel like with the BPA 30, one battery, everybody's been talking about it. You know, the Canon C70 battery life is superb. Like, there's nothing really wrong with it. It's great. I've never bought a BPA 60 battery, but I could only imagine how much power life that would give me in the field in a situation like this. Battery life Canon C70 for sports videography, it's a go. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing it safe and being on the safe side. If you want to pack 2 BPA batteries, I'd recommend as a professional, you always pack 2 batteries, period. Something can happen, something can malfunction, you could lose something, whatever. Always bring 2 batteries. I'm just saying in my particular situation, Canon BPA 30 battery did just fine. So the last topic I wanted to cover in this video is recording format. So I decided to record in the long op format, and also instead of XS AVC, I went down to MP4. Anybody who owns the Canon C70 knows you can't access 120 frames per second without being into long op. So when you're out there, sometimes it's a little too much to be changing your recording format just so you can switch over to capture some B-roll or whatever it may be and go over to 120 frames per second. So that was one of my reasons why I recorded in long op instead of the 410 megabytes intra frame. The other was, of course, space. You know, shooting these things, these events, shooting on a camera like the Canon C70, the files can be big. Now, granted, I feel like they could be way worse. You know, this camera does very well for file size and just being able to, you know, read and write on a SD card, you know, so, you know, you won't get any drawback or anything like that from me on that. But I just chose to go down in these formats just so I can utilize some space. And even when I encode them, I switch them over into proxy so I'm able to maneuver, because sometimes the MP4s from the Canon C70 could give you a little bit more trouble than shooting in the highest format. It's funny and it's weird, I know, but it's true. I even sometimes thought about recording the whole thing in HD. You know, I feel like it still would be a great with the dynamic range and the color science and stuff like that. I'd still be able to deliver a fantastic quality to the customer. They probably wouldn't even notice. But like I said, when you have better, sometimes you just want to provide better, and there's nothing like a nice 4K image. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the Canon C70 would have did just great with the HD display. I have this 10 terabyte stationary drive that I keep at home, and it's almost filled up. You know, sometimes I might even have to catch myself going to delete things just to, you know, offer up more space for my new projects and stuff like that. So, you know, you just want to watch those things of what you're doing when you're taking on projects, how you want to film them, what format you want to shoot them in, because it can cost you. You know, and if you make the conscious decision and you still want to go through with it, 100% fine. I get it. You know, I like offering the client that quality. I like seeing that quality myself. So I get it, and you won't get no bark back from me. All right, guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for tuning back into the channel. Like I said, if you're new, my name is Belry. I appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. And remember, anything is possible.